The rain came down in sheets, turning the cracked sidewalk outside the Lexington diner into a jagged river. Water pooled around the rusted gutter, where cigarette butts floated like tiny rafts. It was nearly midnight, and most of the city had gone to sleep. Except Serena Carter. She moved behind the counter with practiced grace, wiping down the faded laminate surface with one hand and balancing a tray of chipped mugs with the other. The neon sign above the diner flickered like it was on its last breath. Just like her. 12 hours on her feet. No breaks. No tips worth counting. But still, she didn't complain. She never did. Serena believed kindness wasn't something you gave when it was convenient. It was something you gave when it was needed. And tonight, someone needed it. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a small figure just outside the diner window. At first it looked like a pile of rags, slumped and forgotten. But when the lightning cracked across the sky, she saw a wheelchair and a boy. His face was pale, his dark hair slicked flat to his forehead. A plastic poncho hung from his shoulders, torn at the sides, doing little against the downpour. His hands trembled as he tried to pull his blanket tighter. Serena didn't think. She dropped the rag and pushed open the door. The wind slapped her skin like cold hands. "Hey, sweetie," she said, crouching next to the boy. "You okay? Out here?" The boy flinched, then turned to look at her. His eyes were wide and blue, too blue, the kind of blue that said he'd seen things no child should have to. "I'm waiting for my dad," he whispered, almost swallowed by the rain. Serena looked down the empty street. No cars, no people, no sign of any dad. "Well, I think your dad would want you to be warm and dry while you wait," she said softly. "Come inside, baby. I've got grilled cheese and tomato soup." He hesitated, but then nodded slowly. Serena gripped the cold metal handles of the wheelchair and pushed him into the warmth of the diner. What she didn't see was the sleek black car across the street. Its engine idled in silence. Behind tinted windows, a man sat watching her, watching his son. And in that moment, something began to shift. A storm far bigger than the one outside had just started brewing. Inside the diner, the storm faded into a distant whisper behind thick glass. The heater buzzed weakly beneath the booth as Serena wheeled the boy over to the corner table closest to it. She grabbed a clean towel from under the counter and gently wrapped it around his shoulders. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked, crouching again to meet his eyes. "Daniel," he said. His voice was steadier now, but his hands still trembled. "Well, Daniel," Serena smiled, "you've got perfect timing. I was just about to make something special." He blinked up at her, unsure. "You like grilled cheese?" she asked. He nodded, just barely. "Good. And I make the best one this side of the city. Promise." She stood and moved to the small open kitchen, hands moving like muscle memory. Bread, butter, cheddar cheese. Nothing fancy, but warm. Real. She poured a bowl of tomato soup and added a pinch of pepper, her grandmother's trick. It was simple food, but it meant something. While it grilled, she glanced over her shoulder. Daniel sat quietly, the towel snug around his frame. He was staring at the ceiling, then at the steam rising from the mug of water she'd brought him. Serena saw something there. Not fear exactly, not sadness, just tiredness, the kind that weighed down more than the body. She plated the sandwich and soup and carried it to him. "All right, champ. Dig in." Daniel looked at the food, like it might vanish if he blinked. His small fingers reached out, shaky but eager. He took a bite, and the moment his teeth sank into the crisp bread, his entire face changed. His lips curled into a slow smile. "This is really good," he mumbled through a mouthful. Serena chuckled. Told you. What neither of them noticed was the slight movement across the street. The black Bentley hadn't moved, but inside it, Raymond Holt leaned forward slightly, watching, thinking. Raymond was not the type to be late, not the type to leave his son unattended. But tonight, a business crisis had called, a massive stock issue with his investors in Japan. And he'd told his driver to take Daniel to the diner. Just 10 minutes. That was all it was supposed to be. What he didn't expect was to see his son smiling, or that the woman behind the counter, a waitress in a faded apron and secondhand sneakers, would treat Daniel with more grace and gentleness than most of his own boardroom executives treated anyone. He reached for his phone. Nora, he said when his assistant picked up, go to the Lexington Diner. No suit, no heels. Just observe. There was a pause. Sir? I want to know everything about the woman feeding my son. Then he hung up. Back inside the diner, Daniel was licking tomato soup from his spoon. Serena slid into the booth across from him, resting her elbows on the table. So where's your dad coming from? Daniel shrugged. He's busy. He's always busy. There was no bitterness in his voice. Just fact. Just the kind of statement a kid made after learning not to expect too much. Serena leaned forward, keeping her tone light. Well, while you're here, I'm on your team. Want dessert? Daniel's eyes lit up. She smiled and stood again, heading toward the counter. But something inside her twisted. Not just sympathy, but recognition. Because once upon a time, she'd been that kid too. Alone. Waiting. Cold. And no one had ever stopped for her. The door to the diner creaked open just as Serena was sliding a giant chocolate chip cookie onto a plate. The wind rushed in again, bringing with it a woman, tall, sharp-eyed, with her blonde hair tucked under a gray Orioles cap. She wore a hoodie and jeans, but something about her posture screamed, not from around here. Her gaze swept the diner in one smooth motion, calculating and calm. It only stopped when it landed on Daniel. Hey there, champ, she said, her voice light and sugar-sweet. Too sweet. Time to go. Daniel blinked. His fingers tightened slightly around the cookie. But I haven't finished my milk. The woman tilted her head, that smile never faltering. That's okay. You can take it with you. Your ride's waiting. Serena froze. Something was off. She stepped out from behind the counter and folded her arms. You know him? The woman turned to face her, still smiling. I'm his aunt. Serena didn't blink. She turned to Daniel. That true, sweetheart? Daniel hesitated. Just a second. Just long enough. Yeah, he said, his voice small. She's here for my dad. Serena crouched beside him, lowering her voice. You okay, baby? You want to go with her? Daniel's eyes darted between the two women, then down to the cookie in his hand. He nodded, slowly, reluctantly. Serena didn't buy it. Not for a second. But she'd been here before. She knew what happened when a black woman asked too many questions, when she made a scene. No one would see her concern. They'd only see her as a problem. So she bit her tongue. Instead, she walked over to the counter, grabbed a napkin, and wrapped another cookie in it. She handed it to Daniel like a secret. For the road, she whispered. He looked up at her, small and fragile in that wheelchair, and gave a smile that broke something open inside her. Thanks, Serena. You're the best. She forced a grin. You got that right. The woman, Nora, wheeled Daniel toward the door without saying anything more. But just before stepping out into the rain, she looked back. Her expression was still polite, still pleasant, but her eyes were something else. Cold, calculated, a warning. Across the street, the Bentley's headlights flicked on, The rear door opened just as Nora approached. She helped Daniel inside, then climbed in beside him. Raymond Holt sat silently. "Well?" he asked, voice low. "She's sharp," Nora said. "Didn't buy the ant story. Almost called me out on it." Raymond's jaw tightened. "But she let you take him." Nora's expression hardened. "She didn't have a choice. You know how it is? A black woman causing a scene? She'd be the one arrested, not me." He didn't respond, because he knew she was right. Nora leaned back. "She's not like the others." Raymond stared out the window, back toward the diner. Rain ran in streaks down the glass. "She didn't know who he was. Didn't ask for anything. Just helped him," he muttered. "And that makes her dangerous," Nora added. Raymond finally nodded. "Which is why I need everything on her. Name, background, where she lives. I want it on my desk by morning." Nora hesitated, then sighed. "Understood." The car pulled away, leaving the diner behind. But Raymond Holt wasn't thinking about the rain anymore. He was thinking about Serena Carter, and the fact that he owed her something. Something money alone couldn't fix. The rain hadn't let up by the time Serena trudged up the cracked steps to her tiny apartment on West Fayette Street. Her sneakers squished with every step, soaked through. The warmth of the diner was long gone, replaced by the cold crawl of exhaustion deep in her bones. She juggled her keys, turned the lock, and pushed open the door. The apartment was dim, cluttered, and smelled faintly of laundry detergent and fried eggs. One bedroom, one wobbly kitchen table, and heat that worked only when it felt like it. She leaned against the door and sighed. Tired didn't even begin to cover it, the kind of tired that made your soul ache. But as she dropped her keys into the chipped ceramic bowl near the door, her thoughts kept circling back to the boy, to Daniel, to the way he clutched that cookie like it was gold, to the way he said her name like it was something special, and to that woman's eyes, the warning in them. Serena rubbed her forehead and told herself to let it go. But then, a knock. 3 short, firm taps. She stilled. No one visited her this late. Heck, no one visited her at all unless it was for rent or trouble. Cautiously, she approached the door and peeked through the peephole. A man stood on the other side. Tall, sharp suit, black wool coat, silver streaks in his neatly cropped hair. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine ad for expensive watches. He didn't belong here. Not in this building, not on this street, and definitely not at her door. "Who is it?" she asked through the wood, her fingers gripping the lock. A pause. Then, "Raymond Holt." The name meant nothing to her. "What do you want?" Her voice was sharp now, defensive. "To talk," he said, calm as still water. "About what?" Another pause. "My son." That stopped her cold. She unlocked the deadbolt slowly, cracking the door just enough to see his face. "You're Daniel's dad?" she asked. He nodded. "Barely. I was across the street last night, watching." Her stomach turned. "So what? You came here to yell at me for feeding your kid a sandwich?" His expression didn't change. I came here because I don't believe in charity." Serena blinked. "Excuse me?" Raymond stepped forward slightly, then placed something on her kitchen table through the open doorway. A thick, sealed envelope. She looked at it like it might explode. "What is that?" "A job offer," he said. Serena stared at him, sure she'd misheard. "A what?" "Holt Dynamics. 6 figures. Full benefits. Real work." She let out a sharp laugh, more disbelief than humor. "You think I want to work for some rich guy who shows up at my door like Batman with a resume?" Raymond didn't flinch. I think you don't want to owe anyone anything. That's why I'm not offering charity." Serena's throat tightened. She looked at the envelope again, thick enough to mean something. Real. You don't even know me, she said. I know enough, Raymond replied. You didn't ask for anything, you just helped. That's rare. She folded her arms, trying to keep her walls up. So what would I be doing at your company? Making your coffee? No, he said. You'd be working with me. Negotiations. People. Serena scoffed. You've got 1,000,000 Ivy League grads who'd kill for that job. Raymond's voice dipped lower. Exactly. I don't trust them. She looked at the envelope again. She thought about rent, about bills, about getting up tomorrow for another double shift just to scrape by. Then she thought about Daniel, and the way she saw him, when maybe no one else ever did. She picked up the envelope. I'll think about it, she said. Raymond nodded. Once. Good. And then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, but Serena stood there for a long time, envelope in hand, heart pounding, knowing deep down. She wasn't just thinking about it. She was going to say yes. The first day at Holt Dynamics was nothing like Serena had imagined. The glass tower stretched into the sky like it didn't care about gravity, just ambition. Inside, everything gleamed. The marble floors, the chrome elevator buttons, even the air smelled rich, like filtered oxygen and power. Serena stepped through the front entrance in her best blazer from a thrift store and heels that pinched slightly at the back. She could feel the stairs before she even reached the security desk. Some were curious. Most were judgmental. No one said it, but she could hear their thoughts, loud and clear. She doesn't belong here. But Serena had been underestimated her whole life. She knew how to walk into a room and own it, even if her knees were shaking. The receptionist barely glanced up. Name? Serena Carter, she said confidently. Mr. Holt's expecting me. The woman's eyes widened slightly. She tapped a few keys. 26th floor, executive wing. The elevator ride felt like ascending into another universe. When the doors opened, Serena stepped out into silence. Not the quiet kind, but the kind filled with glass offices, closed-door meetings, and million-dollar decisions whispered over lattes. Raymond's office was at the far end, his name etched on a frosted glass door. She knocked. Come in. He was already at his desk, reviewing a file. The skyline stretched out behind him like a painting. You're late, he said without looking up. She checked her watch. By 2 minutes. Raymond finally glanced at her. That's 2 minutes I don't get back. Serena raised a brow. You want to fire me already? He didn't answer, just gestured to the chair across from him. She sat. I assume you read the Orion Group file I sent over? He asked. I did, she said. They want to outsource production to Taiwan. That'll gut half your U.S. workforce. He nodded. And I want you to convince them not to. She blinked. You want me to convince billionaires to care about factory workers? I want you to do what you did at that diner, Raymond said. Make people feel seen. Serena leaned back. You do know this isn't exactly grilled cheese and tomato soup territory, right? Raymond didn't smile. Not quite. But the corner of his mouth twitched. Just then, the glass door opened, and in walked Nora. Different outfit, same energy, sharp, crisp, unreadable. Miss Carter, she said, offering a tight smile. Welcome to Holt Dynamics. Serena smirked. Oh, we're doing last names? All right then. Good to see you again, Miss Winters. Something flickered in Nora's eyes. Surprise, maybe even a little respect. But it passed quickly. I've prepared the brief for the Orion meeting, Nora said, handing a tablet to Raymond. Would you like me to walk her through protocol? Raymond shook his head. I'll handle it. Nora hesitated at the door. Good luck, she murmured before stepping out. but the way she said it didn't sound like encouragement. It sounded like a warning. Raymond slid the tablet across the desk to Serena. Meetings at noon. Don't be late. She flipped through the presentation. Let me guess, she said. If I mess this up, I'm back to diner shifts? Raymond looked at her, expression flat. If you mess this up, 500 people lose their jobs. That landed hard. Serena swallowed, her throat suddenly dry. She nodded once. I won't mess it up. Raymond didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because from this moment on, everything was real. 2 months passed. Fast. Serena wasn't the new girl anymore. She had stood toe-to-toe with billionaires, convinced hard-headed executives to see beyond the spreadsheet, and helped Raymond Holt close deals that saved hundreds of jobs. She didn't just adapt, she thrived. And people noticed. Even Nora. But in places like Holt Dynamics, success painted a target on your back. She had just stepped out of a meeting when Nora caught up with her in the hallway. Her expression was tight. Too tight. We have a problem, she said. Serena froze. Define problem. Nora didn't speak. She just handed her a piece of paper, an email printout. Serena's eyes scanned it once, then again. It was a leaked financial report, one classified and confidential, sent to the press, from Serena's account. Her heart dropped. This isn't mine, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I know, Nora said quietly, but someone wants it to be. Serena gripped the paper tighter, her hands shaking. Who else has seen it? Raymond. And the board. Just like that, the weight of everything she'd built came crashing down. A black woman. A high-ranking position. An anonymous leak. No one was going to give her the benefit of the doubt. In Raymond's office, the mood was different. Colder. He didn't look up when she walked in. Serena tossed the email on his desk. You think I did this? Raymond didn't answer right away. When he finally looked at her, his voice was flat. I want to believe you. Then believe me, she snapped. Because this is a setup. I know, he said finally. But the board doesn't. Silence. She stood there, breathing hard, her chest rising and falling like she'd run a marathon. If they push me out, she said slowly. You know what that means. Raymond's jaw clenched. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. He stood, slipping on his jacket. We're going to find the real leak. Serena blinked. We? He nodded. You're not alone in this. And for the first time in days, the weight on her chest lifted. She and Nora worked through the night. Server logs, email traces, security badge records. Whoever had done this had tried to cover their tracks, but they missed something. A small trail that led to Eric Calloway, a senior executive with a polished smile and dirt under his fingernails. By morning, they had the proof. And Serena didn't wait to be summoned. She stormed into the boardroom at 9 o'clock sharp, every eye turning toward her like she was a problem they were already prepared to erase. I assume you've all seen this, she said, tossing the folder onto the table. So let's skip the part where you pretend you haven't already judged me. She turned to the man 2 seats down. Eric Calloway looked like he'd seen a ghost. These are traced emails, call logs, transfer records, all tied to him. Gasps, murmurs. One of the board members looked physically ill. Serena crossed her arms. You wanted to make an example of someone? Good. Start with him. Raymond stood. Effective immediately, he said, his voice like stone. Eric Calloway is terminated. Legal action will follow. Then he turned to Serena. And Miss Carter is promoted. Later that afternoon, Serena stood beside Daniel at his middle school graduation. His wheelchair squeaked slightly as he held up his diploma like it was made of gold. I told you I'd make it, he said, beaming. You sure did, she grinned. Behind them, Raymond watched with arms crossed, a rare softness in his features. "You did good, Carter," he said. "Damn right I did." Years later, her name would be etched on the door to an executive office. Serena Carter, Vice President of Corporate Strategy. And beneath that name, a plaque. Carter Holt Foundation, built on kindness, because one rainy night she had fed a boy in a wheelchair and changed everything.